Chapter 15. Garrett. "Are you sure you're up for dinner tonight?" Renee asked as she slid in the passenger seat of his loaner truck. His F-150 hadn't been totaled, but the shop had told him it would be at least another week before it was done. Thankfully, the insurance company had covered the loaner truck.
"I'm fine, and I've missed you, so yeah, I'm up for dinner. I'm even cooking."
He'd spent the last few days on bed rest at home, and he was anxious to do something tonight and get back to work tomorrow. "But you're supposed to be taking it easy. Doctor's orders. I know because Riley told me." She lifted a brow at him as if daring him to contradict her.
"I am taking it easy. Trust me."
In fact, he couldn't remember the last time he'd taken life so easily. His life had been hectic since becoming a doctor, and while he didn't recommend getting injured to slow down, it had been nice to relax. The first day or two. But now he was ready to get back to work.
"Hey, how did the walk for life go? Any issues?"
Renee smiled and shook her head. "Nope, they said it went off without a hitch thanks to the increased police presence, and they even had 30 new people there."
"That's awesome. And how was the center?"
He'd told Becky he would volunteer, but the accident had forced him to delay that promise for a bit. "It's taking a bit to pick back up. They got the window fixed, though, and there haven't been any other brick incidents."
"God is good,"
Garrett said, as he made a right toward his house. He glanced in the rearview mirror and noticed a black SUV a few cars back. It was probably nothing, but he'd thought he'd spotted the same SUV on his way to pick Renee up, and that unnerved him a little. "Yes, he is. Did Clay find out anything more about the accident? Did they find the driver yet?" Garrett sighed.
"Yeah, they did. It was a random drunk. Evidently the guy has a drinking problem and was driving on a suspended license. He ran, thinking the cops wouldn't know it was him."
"Well, in a sense that's good, right? It means no one's after you."
"Yeah."
Garrett wished he could be sure about that, but ever since the accident, he'd felt uneasy, like he was being watched. He glanced in the rearview mirror again, but the SUV was gone. Maybe he was imagining things.
"We should probably tell HR we're dating soon."
A soft pink bloomed on Renee's cheeks. "We probably should, if you're sure you're okay with people knowing." He grabbed her hand and gave it a squeeze.
"I'm okay with people knowing if you are. I can go tomorrow after work if you want, or I can wait until you're on again with me."
He hated that his first day back at work was her day off, but that was the way it went sometimes. "Let's do it the next shift we have together." When they reached the house Garrett shared with his brother, he scanned the area one more time for the black SUV, but there was nothing. Satisfied they were safe, he parked the truck and led Renee into the house.
"Have you ever had fish and chips?"
he asked as he led the way to the kitchen. "I can't say that I have. Does the fish taste fishy, though? I'm not a huge fish fan."
"Not a fish fan? I don't know if we can keep dating then."
He was kidding, of course, but it did shock him that she didn't like fish. Growing up in England, it was considered a staple. "Ha ha. I'm open to trying it. I just don't like a super fishy taste. There was no fresh fish where I grew up in Texas, so my mother used to buy fish sticks in a box and make us eat those." Garrett grimaced. He'd tried fish in a box once when he first moved to America, and it had been horrible. If that was what she'd grown up with, he could understand why she didn't like fish.
"I promise it won't taste like that. Now you just sit down and watch the chef at work."
He donned an apron as she sat at the bar and watched. She filled him in on the patients over the last few days while he worked, and when he was done, they sat down together at the kitchen table. It was small, as Clay had lived here alone before Garrett moved to town, but he didn't mind. It made it feel more intimate, and eventually he hoped to have his own place. He took her hand, said a short prayer of thanks, and then watched as she took a tentative bite of the fried fish.
Well,
she finished chewing the bite in her mouth, a thoughtful expression on her face. It's not bad.
Not bad. Woman, you're killing me, he teased,
though he figured not bad was decent praise. She slapped his arm playfully. Stop. I just mean I couldn't eat it every day, but it's pretty good. And not fishy tasting, so I call that a win.
Good. I hope to have many more wins in the future,
Garrett said, holding her gaze a moment longer before picking up his own fish. When the meal was over, she helped him wash dishes, and then they headed to the living room to watch a movie. Garrett wasn't ready for the night to end, and he was glad to see that Renee wasn't either.
Do you want a thriller or a comedy?
He asked, pulling up his movie app so they could see what was available. Definitely a comedy, she said, taking a seat on the couch. He maneuvered to the comedy section and then began to scroll. Wait, Good Will Hunting? I haven't seen that in forever. Let's watch that one.
Okay, but only if you tell me it's for Robin Williams and not for Matt Damon.
The woman he'd dated before Carrie had been a huge Matt Damon fan. She'd watched every one of his movies at least twice, but Garrett had been forced to call it quits when she asked him to cut and dye his hair to look more like the star. Can't it be for both? Renee asked, chewing on her lip. I mean, Robin Williams is hilarious, but Matt is fun to look at. Garrett rolled his eyes.
I can't compete with him.
Renee placed a hand on his arm. You don't have to compete with him, but you absolutely could. Garrett held her gaze and then moved his hand to cup her cheek. He trailed his fingers down her cheek and across her lips, and when her eyes closed, he lowered his lips to hers. Their first kiss had been soft and quick. This one was not. This one was long and heated. Electricity buzzed through him like a shock from a light socket. He hadn't felt anything like this in a long time, and he craved it like an addict craved drugs. But he also knew that he had to stop it. For now. Kisses this hot had a way of melting the best of intentions, and he was going to do this relationship with Renee the right way, the way God intended it. So even though it pained him, he pulled back from her and tucked her under his arm.
We better not keep Robin and Matt waiting, he said.
I agree, she said, her breath still a little labored. But I hope we can do that again soon.
Oh, definitely, Garrett said with a smile. What are you doing tomorrow?